First, our official poverty measure ignores many of the main anti-poverty efforts of the last 30 years. A clear example of the weakness of the official measure is that the EITC lifted 3.7 million people above the poverty line in 2005, yet it did not affect our official poverty measure. Second, the thresholds to which pre-tax money income is compared are updated annually to account for inflation using the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. However, the CPI sharply overstates inflation. These biases accumulate over time, so over a decade or more, the bias has a substantial effect on poverty rates, more than 3 percentage points over the last 25 years. Third, an absolute poverty measure avoids one layer of subjectivity that is inherent in a relative poverty measure like that proposed. With a relative poverty measure, there is an additional element of arbitrariness, and that one must choose how the thresholds change in real terms each year. A relative poverty measure also has a peculiar and unattractive property. Income could rise for everyone, yet relative poverty could go up also. Fourth, we should from time to time set new goals for poverty reduction. As has been emphasized, we're using the same measure that was devised almost 50 years ago. Though as previously mentioned, despite how we officially describe the measure, the thresholds have risen in real terms because of bias in the CPI. We would hope that a true absolute poverty rate would fall over time with economic growth and the success of anti-poverty programs. Thus, periodically, we may want to raise the cutoff for an absolute poverty measure and set new poverty reduction goals. If thresholds are raised explicitly every decade or two, that is more transparent than a complicated annual adjustment. Fifth, consumption itself is a better measure of resources available for consumption than after-tax, post-transfer income. Consumption reflects lifetime income and wealth, and thus better captures the long-term prospects of a family than 1 year's income. Consumption is more likely to capture the effects of saving and dissaving, the ownership of durable goods like houses and cars, and access to credit. Consumption is also more likely to reflect private and government transfers. Consumption seems to be better measured than income for those with few resources. Underreporting of transfer income is very pronounced and has been rising in income data sets. Sixth, what it means to be poor when poverty is defined by the current official standard has changed over time. This situation is true despite the official poverty rate in 1970 and 2005 being exactly the same, 12.6%. As has been previously mentioned, President Reagan quipped that we fought a war on poverty and poverty won. There are plenty of statistics that disagree with that statement by Reagan, but our official poverty measure isn't one of them.